Yeah, there's certainly an argument to be made for that. I think what's happened is that what seems to be happening so far, anyway, I should say, is that for the first time in almost living memory, we're having a Tory leadership contest which is playing out exactly as it looked like it would play out before it happened. This has never happened before. Normally by this stage in the contest, we're against one of the people who everyone was talking about, and then a relative unknown, your Andrea Leadsom figure, your Ian Duncan Smith, somebody who nobody had really expected to be in the final two. Instead, we both have the candidate of the right and the candidate of the party establishment that we were expecting, and their poll position is roughly where they were a few months ago. So yes, we should have seen it coming, but that is itself quite unusual.
And turning to the hustings yesterday, this was the first of 12 regional hustings. It was quite well attended, actually. It was much more of a professional-looking event than anything I'd seen the Conservative Party put on before, especially compared to the 2019 election. Do you think that these hustings will actually change any minds?
Well, it's interesting because on the one hand, we don't really learn all that much that we hadn't learnt before. There are occasional tidbits. So, Rishi Sunak is apparently in favour of grammar schools. That's interesting. I don't think I knew that. Unfortunately, we didn't get much detail. But they really do two things. First, every hustings gives Rishi Sunak a chance to close the gap. It's not necessarily that he will. He hasn't done it in the debate so far, but he is the better debate performer, and each and every one of them is a chance for Liz Truss to trip up. But the second difference I really think they're making is that there's going to be 12. There's going to be one in every region of England, plus Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. And it's clear that this means that the candidates who, while they were in London, were, as the previous speaker was saying, were fighting on a very narrow range of macroeconomic and tax questions, are going to have to find policies for all these areas of the country that they're going to be quizzed in. Now, we've already seen the impact of this because Liz Truss has randomly committed to delivering Northern Powerhouse Rail in full. Now, I think that's a great policy, but there was no suggestion that she was going to do it before she, needed some good front pages on those local papers. So we've got 11 to go. And I think that we're now going to see Rishi Sunak coming up with Scottish policy, Liz Truss having to think of something to do for Wales or Cornwall. And that's a hugely positive thing.
That's a really interesting point, but also one of the things that I was so interested with was just how well attended this hustings was. There was a lot of online speculation that the Tory party's charging its members to go to these hustings, that this is going to be a bit of a disaster. And yet, actually, there seems to be a lot of enthusiasm for this contest amongst the grassroots. In many ways, this is the first time we've had a sort of ideological battle within the Conservative Party for the leadership. 2019 was Brexit, 2016 was Brexit. The last time we had these sort of discussions in the Conservative Party was 2005.
Yeah, well, I think actually, ironically, the fee that the Tory party was charging for physical attendance, which I think was only about £5, so you shouldn't overstate it, might have actually helped attendance because according to the party, the problem they had previously is that people would sign up because it was free and then simply not feel like going on the day. And so having made that commitment and put in a very small barrier to entry, it seems to have improved turnout. And I think there is a lot of enthusiasm for the race, but I think it is nonetheless slightly for a lot of the members. It is slightly disappointing that we've ended up with the final two that we have. There was a big push for Kemi Badenoch amongst the grassroots. Our polling and most other polling suggested that she would have walked the second round. I don't think people necessarily in their heart of hearts wanted a contest between two people who had been very senior members of Boris Johnson's government. But nonetheless, there is an important difference in the two candidates. Rishi Sunak stands for one Tory principle, which is sound money, which is not paying for day-to-day spending by borrowing. It's a perfectly respectable Tory principle. On the other hand, you've got Liz Truss, tax cuts, go for growth. It's a fascinating contest.